Now I would like to request His Holiness Chandramouli Swami Maharaj, if he can kindly come and make his offering.
Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Re Satarne Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So while I was sitting there listening to all the senior devotees express their heart and their realizations and their personal experiences, I was thinking, I have to say something after listening to such powerful and really direct understanding of what it means to be a devotee of Srila Prabhupada, a devotee in this ISKCON movement. And I kept going through one thing after another. I'll speak about that, no. I won't. I'll speak about this, no. I'll speak about this, yeah, oh no, not that. So after I heard Naranjan Maharaj speak, I said, I'm going to sneak out the back. Because after that, I was thinking that's the ultimate, as he so, we say, perfectly and so from the heart described what is the essence of Krishna consciousness, and that is the consciousness we do everything in. And what is that consciousness? That consciousness is to please the object of our service. And of course, as devotees, we want to please Srila Prabhupada, we want to please Krishna, we want to please the assembled devotees by being an instrument of Krishna's mercy in others' persons' lives. So we heard so much about personal self-sacrifice. And when I think about it, I think really that is the ultimate. Srila Prabhupada, as was mentioned by His Grace Sesha Prabhu, and so nicely and so clearly, how he was an example for that personal self-sacrifice. And one of the things that really are one of the aspects of Srila Prabhupada's existence for us, which is really one of the more fundamental parts of Srila Prabhupada's mission, is how much he sacrificed to give us this transcendental knowledge. And what difficulties, or what we would say, what austerities he went through. Shrutikirti Prabhu describes how, or he describes actually what was Srila Prabhupada's schedule, his daily schedule. How he would take rest, usually between 10:30 and 11 each night. And then wherever he was in the world, even though he was traveling, he would get up after an hour, hour and a half, 12 o'clock, 12:30, and then begin his meditation on the Bhaktivedanta purports, studying very carefully the works of the previous acharyas in relationship to the text of Srimad Bhagavatam, and trying to go deeper in the understanding of what has been given and presented it in such a way that we could understand it and also make it, what we say, applicable in our life. And Prabhupada worked tirelessly. Of course, we heard throughout the day how he was always active, either preaching, meeting devotees, meeting important people, giving classes, traveling. But yet, in the evening, when everyone else was resting, Prabhupada was up, wanting to give the world one of the most valuable gifts, this transcendental knowledge. What is that knowledge? The knowledge of our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that eternal relationship. Knowing that if we could accept this knowledge, we could be free from all of our suffering and we could fulfill all our desires perfectly and completely. And how he wanted us to take advantage of what he gave us, as he mentioned so many times in his lectures. Please read my books. These books are for the devotees. Just this year in Mayapur, there was the SGGS, the Sannyas Guru GBC Sangha, were discussions of the future of our ISKCON movement, or the direction of the future of our ISKCON movement, should be understood more, what we say, directly, clearly. Where are we now? Where we have to go? What is important? What to emphasize? Where are we lacking? And one of the things that was mentioned and emphasized was we don't read Srila Prabhupada's books enough. and because of that, it is hard for us to keep devotees. Many times, many people come to our movement, especially in Western countries, and they come, they get inspired, they get involved with devotional service, and for some reason or other, there may be many reasons why it happens. But one of the reasons is we don't really emphasize enough the importance of studying and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And Srila Prabhupada wanted that. He said, my books are for the devotees. In 1976, here in Mayapur, he was speaking about this, and he did it in a very rhetorical way. He said, you're out distributing my books, and when someone says, what is in the book? You say, oh, our teacher, he writes, and we simply distribute. That's all. In other words, we're not taking time to understand deeper what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And when we understand deeper, we can appreciate, and that appreciation brings greater gratitude of what we have been giving. And that gratitude inspires us to surrender more and more in devotional service. And so, this Krishna consciousness movement, as Prabhupada said, will go on for thousands of years, expanding Lord Chaitanya's mercy. But it is based on a sound, philosophical, transcendental knowledge that is coming directly from the spiritual world. This knowledge that has been given to us cannot be understood simply by intellectual acumen or the ability of a great mind. That may be an asset, but the real understanding is the practice of the knowledge. And as Niranjan Maharaj so beautifully illustrated in his own personal experience, how the consciousness of wanting to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wanting to please Srila Prabhupada in the execution of our devotional service, is more important than the results we get from the activities we perform. And that consciousness helps to be solidified when we understand more and more this wonderful and most powerful knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us in the form of his books and the form of his lectures. And one of the things I guess I wanted to emphasize, which is so fundamental, but yet Srila Prabhupada repeated it so many times in practically all of his lectures, is that this material world is simply only a place of suffering. He wanted to understand, he wanted to help us to understand that clearly. And by understanding that clearly, we would become more enthusiastic to give our lives, to give our whatever we have been given by Srila Prabhupada's mercy in devotional service. So by having that knowledge, then it becomes easier to understand. We can then focus on the essence of our devotional service, and that is, of course, to love and serve Krishna by following carefully the instructions of Srila Prabhupada in his books and his lectures, and has been given by his representatives who are speaking on behalf of his pure knowledge. So that is really the conclusion. I remember I was hearing a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, it was in 1975, February 28th, I believe it was, 1975, in Atlanta, Georgia, where devotees had come from all around America to meet Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had been traveling. He just came from Dallas, and now he came all the way to Atlanta. And so it was one of those rare visits where devotees could actually come and see Prabhupada. And so devotees came, and the temple wasn't so big, and so many devotees came. In fact, it was so crowded that devotees were standing outside the windows looking in to try to hear and see Srila Prabhupada's lecture. And Prabhupada didn't speak so long in this particular lecture. But at the end, he did call for questions. And it was actually a Sunday feast, so there was other guests who had also come. So one of the questions by one of the devotees, which was somewhat of a question that the devotee somewhat had an indication, or at least he felt that he knew how Prabhupada was going to answer the question. He said, "Srila Prabhupada, what pleases you most?" And of course, this devotee was a book distributor. And so Prabhupada was thinking, obviously, Prabhupada's going to say, "Distribute my books." And the temple was full of devotees who had been on book distribution, had come to hear Prabhupada. But you know, in my own experience, when you try to second guess a great soul, you always make a mistake. You somehow or other think you're going to say something or react in a certain way, and it's always different. Just to teach you, you cannot understand simply by your own mind the mind of a great personality. And therefore, Prabhupada answered in such a way that he brought out the essence of Krishna consciousness, and he brought out what we're trying to do as a society. And he answered the question, he said, "What pleases the spiritual master most is if you love Krishna." So after hearing that, I understood that everything that we are doing in Krishna consciousness has to bring us to the point of loving Krishna. And in order to love Krishna, we have to carefully read Srila Prabhupada's books to understand who is Krishna, what is his nature, what is our relationship with him, what is his wonderful pastimes that can attract our minds and hearts, and attract our minds and hearts in such a way that we have no more interest in trying to find happiness in this material world. Prabhupada said you have to give up this desire to try to become happy in this material world, but Prabhupada has given us the formula. Read his books, chant the holy names of the Lord, and associate with his devotees who are following very strictly and purely his teachings. That comes down to really the essence of Krishna consciousness. How we can come to that platform of loving Krishna more and more. But if we're still looking towards material life for something, some happiness, some peace, some satisfaction, some remuneration, anything, even on the subtle level, even we heard from Naranjan Maharaj, he wanted some kind of reciprocate, which was completely natural, that he worked so hard to please the spiritual master, dedicating all his time, energy, and skills, even reluctantly, initially accepting the service. And after enthusiastically doing it, Prabhupada wasn't there in a personal way to receive it. But Prabhupada did accept that consciousness of wanting to please the spiritual master, wanting to develop our love for Krishna by engaging in the service in such a way that we don't think about anything else but trying to please the spiritual master. So this is a meditation that Srila Prabhupada gave us in his life. I remember in I think it was 76, I was in New Vrindavan, and Srila Prabhupada came. He was actually coming, and the announcement was made amongst all the devotees that Srila Prabhupada is coming, and all those who can cook should cook something for Srila Prabhupada, and the community leader, who at the time was Kirtananda Maharaj, he was going to personally take whatever we made and bring it to Srila Prabhupada and greet him with this beautiful plate of all the offerings that the devotees could offer to Srila Prabhupada. And I was the cook in the New Vrindavan community. I was the head cook, and because there was no other cook, I was the head cook. So it sounded pretty, important. And actually, nobody else wanted it. So I was cooking for the brahmacharis. This was in the old farm in the brahmachari ashram. And of course, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was there. He was the pujari. And I had been given this one particular preparation to cook for the deities, and that was para. For some of you who don't know what para is, it's just cooked down milk and sugar with cardamom added and made it into a little cookie-like formation, and there was some sugar on the outside. So I was making this regularly for Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Nath, who were the presiding deities of the brahmachari ashram at the time. And so I was requested to cook para for Srila Prabhupada. So, but at the same time, there was also an opportunity to go with Kirtananda Maharaj to the airport to meet Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking, I want to go. I had never seen Prabhupada. I had only heard about Prabhupada. My only exposure to Srila Prabhupada is what I had heard from others and reading some of his books at the time. And so my heart became very strong. I really developed a strong attachment to wanting to go. And there was a choice among a few devotees who would get to go. But I didn't get to go. And so I was really brokenhearted. But I thought, all right, let me try to please Srila Prabhupada by cooking for him. So while I was cooking, I was trying to make this para for Srila Prabhupada. I kept thinking, why wasn't I chosen to go? I really wanted to go. I had a strong desire to go. And my mind kept going in and out while I was cooking. And when you're cooking, you have to pay attention to make sure everything goes on nicely. So my attention was diverted to my own lamentation of not being able to go. And so the para didn't come out. It came out really, really third class. And it was sticky, gooey, dark. Para should be light in color. So after finishing, I thought, this is not suitable to offer to Srila Prabhupada. But then I thought, I had made some para for the deities, and I haven't offered those yet. I still have them. I'll give those to Prabhupada. They're much better. So that was my plan, and I had put those aside, and I put the other ones aside. So when a time came for the devotees to collect the different Bhoga offerings to bring to Srila Prabhupada, I wasn't around. And His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj came. He came into the kitchen with the others, and they were looking for the para that I was supposed to give Prabhupada. And they found the one I originally cooked. And they took that and brought it to Prabhupada. And I thought, oh no. I'm thinking, Prabhupada's going to think, what a nonsense. Get him out of the kitchen, put him on the farm and make him dig some holes or something. It could be more useful. Cooking for the deities is, it's not a small service. So, and I was just practically thinking, oh no. Okay. So I went through another stage of lamentation. So the next day, I came, and I was sitting there, and Kirtananda Swami came up to me and he said, I saw Srila Prabhupada do something with prasadam that he never did before, that I had experienced. He ate 1, 2, 3 of your pears right in a row. And I thought, I guess he liked it. And then I thought, I think Prabhupada was just being kind to me. Because during that time I was cooking, I was just lamenting that I just wanted to be with Prabhupada. I just wanted to somehow or other take an opportunity of his association. And I couldn't. So my heart was torn with that mood of feeling what kind of a self-pity lamentation that I couldn't go. But at the same time, I was trying to cook for Prabhupada. So there's a saying that if you do something directly to please the spiritual master, that service carries with you throughout your execution of devotional service. So I thank Srila Prabhupada for being so kind in accepting my offering, although it wasn't a suitable offering. And I guess this comes back to what Niranjan Maharaj was saying, that if we just try to somehow, whatever we can, make an effort in the best possible way. And it goes back again to what everyone else was saying. There's a personal sacrifice that is required. If we look where we are, what we're doing, and how much we're giving at the time, we should think, I have to give more, I have to sacrifice more, I have to do something more, I have to develop some quality, some quantity more in whatever I do, in order to somehow or other become more and more engaged in devotional service. Because if we don't have that consciousness and we're satisfied with whatever level we're doing, then we miss the whole point of self-sacrifice. And we have the examples of the devotees in our movement, and we have the prime example of Srila Prabhupada. His whole life, although he had so much to give us on the transcendental platform, he made so many personal sacrifices with his own health, took so many inconveniences, life-threatening experiences, just to bring this message to the world, knowing that this message is the most valuable thing that people need, and that is to develop our loving relationship with Krishna. So on this day of his disappearance, I just want to thank Srila Prabhupada from the bottom of my heart for what he has given us. And I hope and pray that somehow or other I can somehow keep this principle or develop this principle more what it means to be a disciple of Prabhupada, to try to sacrifice more and more for whatever we have in the service of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Holiness Chandramouli Swami Maharaj.